rangata tui a te hono, whiri a te hono, ko te hono tēnei ka mauwhiwhi a maura wea, kāputa ki te whai au, kāputa ki te ao mārama, ti hei mauri ora. Aku poho e toroa ko rehua nei te kohu takoto mai, aku toroa ingo i taurā ki te au o te moana, i roto o ngā tau takoto mai. Kaure atu ngā moana hōhonu o te moana nui a kiwa e hora nei, i hoi a mai ai e o tātou mātua tīpuna e ki Hawaii nui, Hawaii roa, Hawaii pāmamau, haere atu rā. Ko te kau o te pō ki a koutou, ko te kau o te awatea ki a tātou, morena, kia ora ki a tātou katoa, kua hui mai nei, e mihi ana tuatahi rā ki ngā pou i tū ai tēnei kaupapa, tēnā koutou ki taku whanaunga, a Dario i pohiri mai, i a hau me tōku kāhui kia piri mai ki tēnei kaupapa nui whakaharahara tēnā koe e te rangatira o tira ki a tātou. Kua piri mai ki tēnei huitopa, hei painga mo te iwi, e mihi ana, e mihi ana, e mihi ana. So yeah, you're going to learn a little bit more about me later on. But right now I'm going to karawhiua ki taku tuahine to Christine, and she's going to start us off today.
Kia ora ngamahi e hoa. Kia ora koutou, ko Christine tōku ingoa, te kaumaiiwa o ki tau, he uri tēnei no Ngāpuhi, e noho ana ahu ki tāmaki makaurau, so if you're locked down, I know how you're feeling, and I'm a youth mentor and facilitator on the Atawhai program with the Kindness Institute. And just before we jump in, I'm just going to talk more about my journey and then talk about the kaupapa, and then I'll pass it on to Tati. But yeah, my journey first began when I was even younger. I joined the Atawhai program in my third to last year of schooling. And at the time, I was struggling to connect with anything, my schoolwork, my school teachers, my friends, my whānau, and I'd show up to these places that I needed to be, and my body was there, but my hinengaro was someplace else. I'm pretty sure it was like in Korea or like New York. But yeah, there were so many moments where it could have been amazing, but were not, because some days I was just too shy to do anything. Some days I couldn't even bring myself out of the whare. I didn't go to the events that apparently you're supposed to go to as a teenager, but I didn't because I was too scared to leave the whare. I imagined the worst things happening if I left the house, and I had realized that I was living in every moment but the present moment. And that for me was probably one of the biggest realizations and learnings I've taken away from this kaupapa. I recognized that I had quite a busy mind and that I was thinking quite a lot for someone that young. But coming to a space like this, I was like, okay, this is an opportunity to be the person I had always wanted to be, but didn't feel comfortable making this type of change in the place I was growing up in, or had grown up in. And yeah, coming into the space, there were new rangatahi from different kura. Instead of teachers, I had mentors. And the Atawhai whānau event that we have at the end of every intensive was the first thing that I invited my parents to willingly. So what is Atawhai? I should probably talk about that now. Atawhai is the core rangatahi program at the Kindness Institute. And we're a charity that supports rangatahi to transform their hauora. We want rangatahi in Aotearoa to have the tools to overcome challenges, to improve their well-being, and to feel like that they can live a meaningful life. And it was started by our founder, Chrissy, in response to our youth mental health crisis. And Chrissy is actually here with us today to answer all the pātai that we may not have the answers to in our Q&A session that we'll have at the end of today. Our core program, Atawhai, is a hauora program based on Te Whare Tapawha, created by Sir Mason Jury, who I saw in person and is really, really cheeky, but we love him, and based around mindfulness. The kaupapa is for rangatahi, by rangatahi, aged 14 to 18, and their whānau. And we work with a cohort of 10 rangatahi over a course of 6 to 12 months through intensive week-long wānanga, monthly wānanga, and ongoing mentoring. And rangatahi learn how to regulate their emotions. They learn to deal with conflict, improve their ability to forgive, and build their motivation, decision-making, and relationship skills. Atawhai supports rangatahi through yoga, through mindfulness, mauri, through reflection, and creative arts with the aim of equipping them with lifelong communication, hauora, and resilience skills. So for me, eventually with time, how I felt at Atawhai is eventually how I felt everywhere else. I did great in school. I invited my parents to all the other kaupapa that they had no idea about. I created more meaningful friendships, and I was able to make decisions for myself, which at the time seemed like the hardest thing. And this was all due to the practices of nohopuku, through stressful thought inquiry, and through yoga. And by practicing these tools, my hauora is and still is the best it's ever been. I've become much more aware of how I speak to myself, how I speak to others, recognizing when I'm feeling low and then actually doing something about it. I've turned towards the mama I had been running away from, and then released a lot of anger and stress that I took out on my whānau. And then now I'm in a position, a few years later, where I'm able to teach others. Over the past few years, I've taught at my kura, Onehunga High School. I've taught at the Mount Roskill Muslim community. I've taught team moms. I've done my 200-hour yoga teacher training. I've taught on the Atawhai program, and I've been teaching my whānau, my friends, and even my cats, who, by the way, are great students. They do not speak back. And this is a huge part of our kaupapa. On this program, rangatahi are able to teach and share these tools through our tuku iho model, which is pretty much just training the trainer. And by sharing these tools with their friends, with their whānau, with the community, we create a ripple effect. And this is how tuku iho works, passing down these practices. He painga mo te iwi whānui. Rangatahi then go on to join the tuakana program, which Tarangi is a part of right now. And we train them to become kaiako, to facilitate on the program and to mentor the new rangatahi who come on the program, just like myself. And I'll be teaching you all today, leading you through some movements that will hopefully bring some energy and some ease to your tinana that you can take into the rest of your day. So yeah, we're going to jump into a short, simple yoga sequence that I encourage you all to take part in. If you've never done yoga before, ki te pai, we were all once there before. But yeah, tora tinana. Tora tinana is for everybody, no matter your age, your size, or your ethnicity. It's a practice that's been taught, explored, and shared by many for hundreds of years. And I want to acknowledge that it has its own whakapapa and comes from ancient India. Yoga's origins can be traced back to northern India over 5,000 years ago, which is pretty freaking cool. And there's already so much to be explored. However, for me, the most important thing I want you to know is that as long as you're breathing, you're more than capable of doing yoga. So yeah, the sequence I'm about to teach you is all about connecting with ourselves and everything around us. Te hononga, ki tō tinana, ki tō tātou auhoki. And whenever you feel frustrated or need a bit of strength or guidance, just drawing energy from the whenua, from our tupuna and our atua. So yeah, chuck on something comfy and I'll meet you guys somewhere on the ground. So I give you guys that time to find a space wherever you are and we'll jump into our yoga sequence. Okay, so hopefully you can all still hear me. I'll try my best to be nice and loud and speak. And just a reminder, if for any reason you can't get on the floor, ki te pai, you can stay in your chair and just do movements that feel good for your tinana. The main kaupapa for yoga is more about how you feel instead of how you look. So you don't have to look like everyone that you see on Instagram. So we're going to start off by meeting on the ground, on all fours, to palms and knees, onto the ground. Ki te pai. And then you're going to widen the fingertips and grounding down back into the ground, toes untucked, kapene. And then just finding that connection to your heart, your breath. We're going to go into some cat-cows to help warm up the spine today. So hakina, lower the belly towards the ground, the chest lifts and gaze comes up. Haputa, rounding the spine and tucking the chin into the chest. Ano hakina, lower the belly towards the ground, chest lifts, gaze comes up. And then haputa, rounding the spine, pushing the earth away, tucking the chin into chest. Ano hakina. Good, and haputa. Ano hakina. Wakahono tia I tēnei tūranga, deepening into the stretch. Haputa. Ano hakina. Tēnei te mea mitunga. Last one. Haputa. Rounding the spine, tucking the chin into chest. And then returning back to your normal breath and meet in a neutral position so that your spine is nice and flat. Grounding down in that left leg, that left knee, going to kick out that right foot and left arm extends forward. Engage in the core here. Perhaps your gaze comes and looks at the left middle finger. And then breathing out and then bringing your elbow in the inward, rounding the spine. Hakina, extending the leg and the arm reaching out, engaging the core. If you wobble, keep the whai. Haputa. Bring the tinana in, rounding the spine, elbow knee come inwards. Ano hakina. Strong through that right hand. Haputa. Bringing the tinana in. That's one. Hakina. Extending that left arm, right leg. Haputa. Placing that palm and the knee back onto the ground. Good. And then we're going to do the other side now. So again, grounding down through that right knee. Hakina, kick that left foot back. Right arm reaches forward. Haputa, rounding the spine, elbow knee come inward. Hakina. Perhaps you start to notice the body starting to heat up. Haputa. Bringing the tinana in. Ano hakina. Haputa. Hakina. And as you exhale, lowering that right hand and that left leg. Good. And next we're going to move into child's pose. And child's pose is a good pose to go into when you want to de-stress and calm down. So make sure that the big toes are to touch and just widen the knees to where it feels comfortable. And move the hips, hope, towards the heels and just walk the hands out in front of you or stacking the palms as a pillow for support for the head as you rest the upoko on papatuanuku. And here we're just staying here for a few breaths, connecting back to our ha, our breathing, connecting back to papatuanuku. Deep breaths here. Unonga ki tō papa. Hakina. And haputa. Pungi kia papa. Good. And then on your next breath, start to gently push yourself back up onto all fours. So again, palms and knees are onto the ground. Widen the fingertips. Toes untucked. Now we're going to do some side stretches here. So nuku ki te taha matou, bumping the hips to the right and looking past the left shoulder. Nice and strong through the arms here. Connecting to your breath. Perhaps noticing a slight stretch in the right hip or the upper back. Last deep breath here. And then moving back to center. Other side, nuku kite taha mauri, bumping the hips to the left and looking past the right shoulder. Again, deep breaths here. If it feels right for you, you might want to close the eyes. And then back to center, hoki ki mua. I'm going to do this one more time on both sides. So nuku kite taha matau, bumping the hips to the right, looking past that left shoulder. Te tiro ki muri. Tākina. Haputa. Hoki ki mua, back to center. Other side, nuku kite taha maui, bumping the hips to the left. Te tiro ki muri. Tākina. Haputa. Hoki ki mua. Good, and then start to walk the hands out a bit more forward, wider. And then tuck in the toes, feeling the stretch in the matiwai, the waiwai. Grounding down through the hands here. And then lift the knees up, engaging the core, using your breath, nice and strong here. A reminder, you can come down whenever you need to. Your next breath, neke o hope ki te rangi, taking the hips high towards the sky, downward dog. And you can bend your knees here. The heels do not have to touch the ground. And as you're here, just connect with your breath, strong through the arms. Perhaps you walk the legs out, bring the movement, stretch out the hamstrings, taking the hips from side to side. And if your legs are clicking like mine, kete pai. Perhaps nodding the head as if you're saying yes, or shaking as if you're saying no, or I don't know, to release any tension in the neck. And then come to stillness. Walk your ringa towards your waiwai. Grounding down through the toes, the feet here. You can have a soft bend through the knees, you're on a forward bend to allow the upper body to hang heavy. Your hands don't have to meet the ground. You can bring the hands to the shins. Allow the upuku to be heavy here. Perhaps taking opposite hand to opposite elbow and then shake gently the body from side to side. I like to come into forward bends when I want to focus and my mind feels busy. Helps me slow down and tune into the present moment. Then releasing the hands where they are. Whakawhetu or waiwai ki papa, grounding down through the mat or ground wherever you are. If you haven't already, whakapiko o puna, bending your knees. And as you inhale slowly by slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, come up into standing. The head is the last thing to come up. To tuotika. And start to roll the shoulders around. And then resting there, palm facing forward, nice and strong through the legs here. You might want to bring a slight tuck to the chin. And this is Tadasana, Manga pose, very foundational pose for all yoga asana. And then you're going to bend your knees here, whakapiko pona. You're going to inhale, sweep the arms up towards the rangi. And as you exhale, bringing the left arm forward, right arm gaze comes behind. So they're opening through the chest. Gentle spinal twist here. Deep breaths here. Perhaps you can hear your breath coming out and in through the nostrils or the mouth. Akina, bring the hands back together, facing front, swinging the arms up towards the sky. Haputa. Akina. And at the exhale, going to the opposite side, right arm reaches forward, left arm comes behind. Gentle twana twist there. Opening through the heart. Ngako. Might start to notice that your body feels very heated. Akina, bring the arms back to yourself. Exhale, shoot them up towards ranginoi. And haputa. Release them back to your sides. We're going to come into our last asana. So standing as you were, grounding down through the feet, have a soft bend through your knees, taking the hands behind you and interlacing the fingers, and straightening the elbows so that the fists are facing towards the ground. Hakina. Kina tupoho, awakening the heart space. Drawing the shoulder blades together and just taking deep breaths here. Hakina. Haputa. If you'd like, you could close your eyes. Hakina. Haputa. Last one. Hakina. Haputa. And tukua. Release the hands, crossing them across, crossing the arms to give yourself a gentle afi, a hug. Perhaps you want to tuck the chin here. Just feel a nice stretch in the spine, through the back body. Connecting back to your breathing. Just giving a big mahi to yourself for practicing with us today, for moving your tinana, taking part and giving it your best. Closing off by sending yourself aroha. And sending everyone else in your whare, wherever you are, lots of aroha. And sending that same aroha out to the world. And then in your own time, when you feel ready, releasing the hands. If your eyes are closed, gently blink them open. Come back to this space. Just noticing how you feel now compared to how you felt at the beginning of the Zoom. When you're ready, just returning to your spot, and I'm going to pass it over to Te Aorangi to share her pūrākau and some meditation. Kia mihi.
Ka pai te whānau. Thank you all for giving it a go. I know that was a bit different for everyone, so that was good. I'll just give you some time to get back to your spot. So ko ai tēnei, ko te aorangi kōwhai, pene tito morini tōku ingoa, heuri tēnei no Ngāti Haua, no Ngāti Tamatera, no Ngāpuhi Nui Tonu, anō hoki, he matamata huanga, no te aho matua, no te kura kaupapa Māori, o Hoani Waititi Marae, i tipu ake, au i te mata torutanga o te ao Māori, me ona tikanga, nei au ka mihi. 17 years old. As you heard before, I'm a tuakana of this kaupapa, so pretty much I'm the bridge between mentoring and rangatahi. So before joining Atawhai, I had already been practicing some aspects of mindfulness in my life, because being part of kura kaupapa Māori and knowing so much about te ao Māori kind of put me on this path of being able to connect to the taiao around me easily. So one thing that really guided me through this journey was using maramataka Maori as a way of planning kaupapa, when to plant food, when to arrange hui, when to rest. And there are so many aspects of mauri tau. But once I joined this kaupapa, it kind of inspired me to continue this way of living, you could say. I started this kaupapa a few years ago when one of my kaiako suggested that I join, and I was keen as. I've never really been a shy person or one to keep my mouth closed, but before I started at Atawhai, I found it really hard to communicate with people and talk about like serious situations and situations that made me feel uncomfortable. So I just bottle up all my whakaaro and push that away and try my hardest to avoid any conflict, because I thought that if I just stayed quiet, then it would make everything easier. But in the long run, it actually made everything a lot harder for myself. And I think that's something we see a lot within Maori, and especially Polynesian men, Maori men. My dad is a prime example of one of these staunch Polynesian men we see. And 2 years ago, I was really closed off with my dad, and as any teenager is with their parents. And one practice that helped me with my dad was mindful communication and learning to listen rather than constantly giving my opinion, learning to take in what they're saying and reflecting it back to understand each other. And this made it so much easier to communicate with everyone in my household. And I think everyone felt that shift when I started implementing these tools in our whare. And I didn't tell anyone what I was doing at the time, but I kind of just started bringing in these tools, and they noticed what I was doing and they just followed my lead. And I can't say that mine and my dad's relationship is perfect. No relationship is, but we've come a long way and we're still learning and always growing. So mindful communication is when someone is talking to you, we just use our body language to show that we're listening so that the other person feels heard. Once the person who's talking to you is finished their kōrero, you can repeat it back and they can tell you what they heard, or they can fill in anything you might have missed out or you may have misunderstood. That way it's easier for everyone to be on the right track. But if you want to learn more about mindful communication, we have a series out called Manawa Maia Te Atawhai, and you can check it out at Renews, on the Renews website, and one of our tuakana have a whole episode on all of that. That's not my episode. I just thought I'd just give a little recap of what that is. So the biggest lesson I've learned is that you're not alone. So many others have been through this, and if you speak up, you'll actually realize that there could be a lot of other people feeling the same way as you do. So if you have to be the one to start those difficult situations and conversations, then so be it, because not only is it benefiting you, but it's also benefiting all your whānau and friends. So mauri tau, I'm going to talk about mauri tau and what that means to me. So to me, mauri tau is about being present rather than being caught up in the past or future. And it's just taking some time to notice your emotions as they pass through your tinana, taking a couple minutes each morning to breathe and notice how you feel. And that could change your whole day pretty much. And there are many ways you can use mauri tau in your day-to-day life. And I think the core of mindfulness is connection. Te hononga ki ngā āhuatanga o tō tātou ao Māori, te hononga ki te hao te ora, te hononga ki o tātou mātua tīpuna o te ranga atua Māori, katoa ngā mahi o Atawhai he mea tūhono i te ira tangata ki te ira wairua. Ko te hao, te tangata, te mea matua o ēnei mahi, it all comes back to the breath. And that's what keeps us alive, when even through kapahaka, karanga, karakia, kua roa te iwi Māori e whai nei i ngā mahinga o a tātou mātua tīpuna, but we didn't really realise where it all came from and where the pūtaketanga o ngā mahi came from, and it's all from the breath really, and that's where it all comes back to. So I'm just going to take us through a short meditation because we're running short on time. So when you're all ready, you can get into a comfortable position. I'm going to be taking it in te reo Māori. I'll try and come back to te reo Pākehā for those of us that don't understand. So when you're ready, you can whakamoia ngā mata, closing down the eyes, relaxing through the body. Tukuna tēnei wā, hei hono atu ki tō hā. Hākina. Hāputa. Hākina. Hāputa. Hono atu ki o tairongo e rima. Try connecting to your 5 senses. Ia ngā mea e rongo nei koe. Pēnā rānei kei waho koe tērā pēr he manu. E tiori mai ana. A tāwhiri mātea. Maybe you can hear the waka driving past your whare. Try to extend your hearing. See how far it can go. Ia ngā mea e pā nei koe, e rongo nei koe. Maybe you can feel your kākahu on your skin. You can feel your puku filling up with air as you breathe in. Giving yourself time to connect with your tinana and your wairua. Hākina. Hāputa. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and come back to your space. Okay, as you can see, our breakout room is closing soon. Aroha mai whānau, we went a bit over time. But we were going to do a Q&A for all of those that do have questions. Follow our Instagram page, The Kindness Institute, and I'll put a little poll up and you can chuck in your questions there and I'll answer all your questions on stories. Ngā mihi e te whānau. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Tēnā koutou.